Smart people are supposed to win, right? They ace exams, land good jobs, figure things out faster. So why are so many highly intelligent people broke, or at least stuck living paycheck to paycheck? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Being smart doesn't guarantee wealth. In fact, sometimes it's the very thing that keeps people stuck. Because intelligence can create traps, hidden patterns of overthinking, perfectionism, or ego that make it harder to actually build wealth. So in this video, I'll break down 7 surprising reasons smart people stay broke. And if you recognize yourself in any of these, it might explain why intelligence isn't turning into freedom. Chapter 1. Overthinking leads to paralysis. Smart people are amazing at imagining scenarios. They can see all the possibilities, all the risks, all the outcomes. But here's the catch. The more you see, the harder it is to choose. You're stuck in analysis mode, waiting for perfect clarity that never comes. There's actually research on this. A 2017 study on analysis paralysis found that people with higher cognitive ability were more likely to delay decisions when faced with too many options. In other words, the smarter you are, the more reasons you can find not to act. I once knew someone who spent years researching investments. He knew every ratio, every model, but when it came time to act, he froze because there was always one more thing to check. And that's the trap. Intelligence gives you foresight, but it also gives you excuses. You end up living in your head, not in reality. Knowledge without action is just mental clutter. At some point, you have to leap. Chapter 2. Perfectionism blocks progress. Linked to overthinking is perfectionism. Smart people are used to being right. They hate mistakes. So when it comes to money, they wait until they feel 100% certain. And that day never arrives. It's like a student who only submits assignments when they're flawless, but life doesn't grade you on neatness. Wealth rewards messy action, not perfect preparation. I had a client who said, I'll start investing when I know it's safe. Safe? Nothing in life is fully safe. Meanwhile, every year he waited, his money lost value to inflation. In wealth, perfection is the slowest path to failure. Progress beats perfection every single time. Chapter 3. Intelligence creates arrogance. Here's a paradox. The smarter you are, the more you think you're above the rules. You don't want to follow the boring basics. You believe you can outsmart the market, outsmart the system, and outsmart everyone. A study in the Journal of Behavioral Finance found that overconfident investors, many of them highly educated, consistently underperformed the market because they believed they could outsmart it. I've seen engineers, doctors, even people with PhD gamble on day trades because they thought, I'm smarter than the rest. Most of them lost, badly. The truth is, intelligence without humility is dangerous. You think you're special, but money doesn't reward cleverness, it rewards discipline. Arrogance turns intelligence into blind spots, and blind spots cost money. Chapter 4. Chasing complexity, ignoring simplicity. Smart people get bored with simple. They want strategies that feel advanced, sophisticated, complex. But wealth is usually built on boring basics, spending less than you earn, investing consistently, letting compounding do its work. The irony, the person with average intelligence who just buys an index fund every month ends up wealthier than the genius chasing exotic strategies. Because smart people think if it's simple, it can't be right. But simple is exactly what works, if you can stick to it. Complexity feels satisfying to the ego, simplicity builds wealth for real. Chapter 5. Emotional blind spots. Smart people often assume intelligence will protect them from mistakes. But money isn't logical, it's emotional. You can calculate numbers perfectly and still panic sell when the market dips. You can read 10 books on finance and still impulse buy when you're stressed. That's the irony. Smart people think they're immune to emotional mistakes, but that makes them even more vulnerable. They justify their feelings with logic. I sold because the fundamentals changed. No, you sold because you were scared. Until you master emotion, intelligence won't save you. Wealth is more about emotional control than intellectual power. Chapter 6: Time Trade-offs, Smart at Work, Poor in Life. Smart people often excel in their careers. They get prestigious jobs, climb ladders, earn impressive salaries. But here's the hidden trap: they trade all their time for income. Because they pay well, it feels like success, but it hides the fact that they're not building freedom. I've met executives earning six figures who still can't stop working. Because the moment their salary stops, their entire life collapses. They optimize for income, not independence, for recognition, not resilience. Don't confuse being highly paid with being wealthy. One buys lifestyle, the other buys freedom. Chapter 7: Identity tied to being the smart one. And finally, identity. For many smart people, their entire self worth comes from being intelligent, from being the one who knows. So, what happens if they try something and fail? It feels like their whole identity shatters. That fear keeps them stuck. They keep studying, analyzing, preparing, because as long as they don't act, they can still protect the image of being the smart one. I once spoke to someone who said, "I've been learning business for years." But when I asked what they actually built, the answer was nothing, because failure would have exposed them. Intelligence becomes a prison when your ego depends on it. You stay broke, but at least you stay smart. Final truth. So let's recap the 7 reasons smart people stay broke. They overthink until they never act. They chase perfection instead of progress. They get arrogant and ignore the basics. They complicate what should be simple. They underestimate emotions. They trade time for income instead of freedom. And they cling to their identity as the smart one. The irony: intelligence should be an advantage, but when misused, it becomes a trap. And that's why people with average intelligence often succeed more, because they act, they fail, they learn, they repeat. The truth is, wealth isn't about IQ, it's about clarity, humility, emotion, systems, and consistent action. That's why I created the Money Mirror Playbook. Not another pile of tips, but a framework to help you see your blind spots, break illusions, and finally turn knowledge into freedom. Because intelligence doesn't guarantee wealth, but clarity does. Get the Money Mirror Playbook now on Shopify, link in the description. The mirror never lies. The only question is, are you ready to look into it?